Hi guys, this is Vineet, and in this video we will discuss about try-catch construct. So basically, why do we use this construct? So there should be a code in your program to handle errors. So basically, if your program encounters any errors, it basically crashes. So there must be some code in your program to handle certain type of errors. That process is called error handling, and try catch is one of the construct you use to implement error handling in your code. And you should be able to control the outcome of anticipated and unanticipated error messages. Pretty clear. So upon occurrence of any error, you do not want to leave the database in inconsistent state. Inconsistent state means there should not be any open transaction at all. If some error occurs and your program terminates abruptly, and it should not leave any open transactions in your database system. So occurrence of an error can cause unterminated transaction. That's what we were talking about. So if your program encounters an error, it may leave some of the transaction or SQL transactions open inside the system. So those transactions or the open transactions should be terminated, and this error handling should be implemented within the code itself. And basically open transactions cause the concurrency issues in the DB system. Let me close this. Okay, and there are some of the T-SQL error handling constructs, and try catch is one of them. And other constructor, we can use error handling functions as well apart from try catch constructs, and we can also use the throw and raise error commands to throw out the error messages, and basically we can use these two keywords for error handling in our SQL code. And we can also implement the error handling in transactions itself. And in this slide we will discuss only about the try catch construct. So let's discuss about it. And this construct can be used to handle errors. So basically in this construct we place our code within the try block, and we place any error handling code within the catch block. So in the try construct, we basically put a block of code in which we anticipate any error messages, and we use the catch block to put the code which is used to handle that particular error, or an anticipated error. If there is no error in the try block, the catch block is skipped. Otherwise the catch block code gets executed. Alright, so I think this section is pretty clear. So if a program encounters any error within the try block, the code in the catch block gets executed. Otherwise the code in the catch block gets skipped if we do not encounter any error in the try block. And below is an example code that uses the try catch construct. So basically in this code we are adding some rows into table named table1, and we are running the below code to create a table1 and add values into it. Below code executes without any error message and does not call any invocation of statement in catch block. So here we have, this is an example of code where we have implemented the try catch construct for the error handling. So let me take you through that code, and after that we will try to execute this code within our SQL environment. So here we are using the Northwind database. We are setting no count to on so that the output does not show us messages like how many rows are affected, or it should not give us any counts. We are dropping a table if it already exists in the system. So if table 1 is already there, it will, this line of code will drop that table, and we are creating a table named table1 in the DBO schema, and it has a column name key column integer type which does not accept null, and there's a constraint on this column. It's a primary key. The key column is a primary key column. Alright, and there's another column, column 1, integer type, does not accept null. Constraint is, there's a check constraint defined on it, check table column 1 greater than 0. So here we are putting a constraint that the column 1 value should be greater than 0. Okay, if we put anything less than 0, it will cause violation of the check constraint and result in any error messages. And there's a column 2 which is a variable char type of which can accept maximum of to 15 characters, and this is also not null. So here we are defining our try construct, and here we are inserting the value into this particular table, table 1, key column which cannot be null, column 1 cannot be null, column 2 cannot be null, and column 1 cannot accept values less than 0. So these two line of codes will execute fine because values are positive and primary keys are separate as well, and we are fine with these two lines of code. After that it will print reached end of try block. So here the try block will execute without any error messages, so because the insert statements are fine and does not violate any constraint like check constraint. And so try section code, this is the try section marked with begin try and ending with end try. So this code will execute without any errors, so any code within the catch block will not execute. In catch block we have defined code like print reached catch block error occurred error messages, then we are using the error message function to show the error message and ending the catch block. So basically in this code there will not be any error messages, and the code within the try section will execute fine, and it inserts basically two rows within the table with the values 120 Oscar and 230 ostrich. And after that we are fetching the values from the table, these three columns, and after that we are truncating the table. So now let me take you to my SQL environment and we will execute this code within SQL Server. So here I am trying to boot up my test machine, which is a DB server, a test DB server which I have installed inside VMware Workstation 15 player. So guys, we are inside our database server machine, waiting for it to get ready so that we can launch SQL Server Management Studio. So it is ready, I think. So let's launch SQL Server Management Studio, and in this video we are dealing with Northwind database. So once the SQL Server Management Studio opens up, I will select the Northwind database. So guys, SQL Server Management Studio is opening up now and it will launch in a while. Okay, environment is launched, and let me connect to the server. So it is trying to connect to the DB services, and let's look under databases. So we have our Northwind database. So let's open up a new query window, and let me go ahead and copy this code from here. So up till here we will execute this code in parts one by one. So let me take you back to the environment. So yeah, the new query window is opened and I pasted the code over here. Okay, so the code is pasted. So now let's try to run the code one by one. So in our first attempt, let me correct this code. Let's try to run this batch of code in one go. So basically this will insert two rows into the table 1. We had discussed about this code earlier, and this code should execute without any issues. So let me execute it. Okay, so it has reached the end of try block, but it has not entered the catch block. Alright, and the code is completed successfully, and we can see that these two rows should be there inside the table 1. So yeah, we can see these two rows are there, and finally we are truncating table 1, so executing this piece of code. So yeah, table is truncated. Now let me take you back to the notes. So above code executed fine without any errors, and the catch block gets skipped, the code in the catch block gets skipped, and it has generated the following output. As we have seen, it has generated reached the end of the try block earlier, and when we look at the table we saw that two rows within that particular table. And now we are looking into another example, and this particular code will generate the error and cause the execution of statements within the catch block. So code is basically the same. It is using the Northwind database with setting no count on, and it is creating a table, the same table with same constant where column 1 cannot be less than 0. And here the first row is fine. We are starting the try block. The first row is fine, it is entering a positive value into the column 1, but the second insert statement is not fine, as it is trying to insert the negative 30 into column 1, and this will cause the violation of check constraint, and which will result in error. And immediately the control passes to the catch block, and this statement will not execute. The reach end of try block statement will not execute because we are encountering error in this particular statement. So control immediately passes off to catch block. So the point of control will reach here, and we'll get the message reach catch block error card, and we got the error message maybe violation of check constraint. We will get that, and here is the catch block is ending, and we are trying to fetch values from the table 1. So we'll get only one row because the first row was correct, it was inserted successfully, but second row was not. And upon execution of initial code till here, till this go statement, we'll get this kind of message reach catch block error card, and the insert statement conflict. The error message we'll get is the insert statement conflicted with the check constraint, because the second insert caused the violation of check constraint. Check table 1 column 1 greater than 0. The conflict occurred in database Northwind table 1 column 1. Okay, so this is the message that we will get when we will execute the code, and only one row will get inserted into the table, and in the last we are truncating that particular table. So let us go ahead and copy this piece of code quickly. Okay, let me do the selection again up till here. So right click, copy, and go to SQL Server Management Studio, and let's close this off, and give me a moment. Okay, we are ready, so I'm closing off this query, and we are trying to create a new query, and here we are pasting the code. Now let's try to execute this code. Basically double quotes is not correct, so I'm putting a single quote. So let's try to execute this code till here, this go statement. So this will result in violation of check constraint, and we'll get the error message. So F5. Now you see we got this error message. This is the error message we received. Let me press enter over here. This is the complete message. The insert statement conflicted with the check constraint. Check table 1 column 1 greater than 0. The conflict occurred in the database northwind table 1 column 1. Okay, now let's quickly take a look at the table 1. We will see that only one out of those two insert statement, only one gets inserted into the table 1. The second row was not inserted because it violated the check constraint. And let's truncate this table 1 now. So executing this statement, let's go back to the notes. So we just saw that we got this error message and only one row was inserted. And the above code is not a perfect example of how error and handling should be done. And this was basically a basic piece of code just to show you how the try catch construct works. So this was not the perfect example how error handling should be done, and this code leaves the database in inconsistent state where only one of the rows get inserted into the target table. Alright, so this code puts the database in inconsistent state where only one row get inserted in the table and not all rows get inserted in a table. So ideally what we do, as a perfect example, we ideally place our codes inside the transaction. So make sure that when an error occurs, everything should get rolled back. I mean, whatever changes are made to the table should get rolled back instead of. So if this was put in, this code was put inside the transaction, none of the insert statement will get inside the table 1. These two pieces of insert statements were within the transaction. Both of these statements will get rolled back, and this will not result the database in inconsistent state. So database will be in consistent state if the code was put inside the transactions. So guys, we are done with the try catch construct, and in our next video we will discuss about error functions. How do we implement error functions within SQL code? So yeah, I thank you for your time. Please make sure to like this video if you like it, and do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get all the updates regarding the new videos that I will post. Thank you so much for your time.